dialed tone. I hadn't spoken to Dave Kepler in over 15 years. We went to school together in Michigan. Different social circles. Same graduation day. He was football. I was literature. Still, there was a kind of unspoken camaraderie between us. Mutual toleration, maybe even respect. So when I saw his name pop up on Facebook Messenger, I was more curious than suspicious. Hey man, long time. How's life treating you? It started like that. Innocent enough. A few messages volleyed back and forth. Small talk, memories, something about Mr. Finley's exploding beaker incident in Chem Lab. But I could tell he was building to something. Cops are like that when they have a question they don't quite know how to ask. Eventually, I told him what I do now. Researching the strange, the unprovable, the stories people whisper but rarely write down. That cracked the shell. You ever come up to Michigan anymore? Not in years. Might want to make a trip. Why? We've got something weird going on in town. Could use your expertise. He didn't say it outright, but I got the sense this wasn't just about a potential story. It was also about a friend quietly asking for help. I drove into Gray Ridge 2 days later. The town had the same quiet bones I remembered. Wide streets, thin sidewalks, the occasional faded sign for a hardware store or family diner. It was October, all yellow trees and slow breezes. Pretty in that Midwest sort of way. Dave met me at Murphy's Cafe, a small place near the courthouse that I remembered from high school dates and after-school study sessions. He was dressed in plain clothes, jeans and a flannel shirt, but still carried the cop's distinctive gait. Upright posture, eyes that cataloged everything, like a man who walks on duty even during his days off. His hair had thinned and gone gray at the temples, and there were lines around his eyes that spoke of too many difficult conversations and sleepless nights. You look the same, I said, taking my coffee. You look like someone who lives in a library, he replied, smirking. Guess that tracks. Then he leaned forward, and the cop in him took over. Voice low, shoulders hunched. All right, here's the deal. He told me about Charlie Morrison first. Local drunk, a familiar fixture in every small town. Harmless mostly, except when he got too deep in his cups and started picking fights with men half his age. 3 weeks ago, Charlie had shown up at the police station during Dave's shift, more agitated than anyone had ever seen him. Not drunk agitated, but genuinely frightened. He kept talking about prank calls, someone threatening him over the phone, saying things about his daughter Sarah, who died in a car accident when she was 16, nearly 20 years ago. At first, we figured it was just Charlie being Charlie, Dave said, stirring sugar into his coffee with mechanical precision. You know how drunks get paranoid, start seeing conspiracies everywhere. But he kept coming back, getting more worked up each time. Dave had finally agreed to look into it. More to get Charlie to stop bothering the desk sergeant than out of any real concern. They pulled the landline records from Charlie's house. No incoming calls registered during the times Charlie claimed to have received them. We told him it was probably kids playing pranks, maybe using some kind of spoofing technology to hide their number. Told him to change his number, maybe invest in caller ID. He said he would, but... Charlie Morrison was found dead a week later, slumped in his recliner in front of a television broadcasting static. No signs of struggle, no obvious cause of death. His heart hadn't stopped, his lungs were clear, and the toxicology report came back negative for everything except his usual blood alcohol level. The county coroner had shrugged and attributed it to Charlie's decades of hard drinking finally catching up with him. Thing is, Dave continued, his fingers drumming against the coffee cup, I might have let it go at that. Drunk dies of mysterious causes, not exactly front page news. But then 2 weeks later, Mrs. Kavanaugh comes storming into the station like the wrath of God. Eleanor Kavanaugh had been Gray Ridge's unofficial moral guardian for as long as anyone could remember. A proper, old-school lady who organized church bake sales, wrote letters to the editor about the declining state of public decency, and had never been heard to utter so much as a damn in polite company. She'd marched into the police station on a Tuesday morning, her usual composure completely shattered, demanding to speak with someone about harassing phone calls. According to her, someone had been calling her landline every night for a week, saying things she wouldn't even repeat to the officers. Disgusting things, she'd said. Personal things. things that made her question whether she was safe in her own home. She was shaking when she told us, Dave said. This is a woman who once chased off 3 teenagers trying to vandalize the church with nothing but a rolling pin and righteous indignation. I'd never seen her scared of anything. Same drill as with Charlie. They pulled the phone records, found no incoming calls during the time she'd reported receiving them. Mrs. Kavanaugh had been adamant that the calls were real, that she wasn't suffering from dementia or hallucinations. She'd even offered to have Dave come sit in her living room to witness the next call. By Monday, she was dead. Found in her favorite armchair, cup of tea still warm on the side table, crossword puzzle half finished in her lap. Same mysterious circumstances. No clear cause of death, no signs of distress, nothing the coroner could point to and say, "This is what killed her." Dave dug deeper. Found 2 more deaths, no complaints on record, but whispers from friends, nervous behavior, unexplained anxiety before sudden death. No cause of death. No suspects. 4 people, he said, leaning back, all saying the same kind of thing before they die, all contacted by someone or something that doesn't exist on a phone log. I nodded slowly, my mind already cataloging similar cases I'd encountered in my research. Phantom calls aren't unheard of, I said. Usually associated with old landline systems, electromagnetic interference, or sometimes genuine supernatural phenomena, though it doesn't usually end in death. Well, Dave said, signaling the waitress for more coffee, I'm officially out of leads. No threats I can trace, no suspects I can identify, no cause of death I can file charges against. The chief's ready to write it off as a series of unfortunate coincidences. I figured maybe it's your kind of thing. It was. The pattern was too consistent, too specific to dismiss. And yet, with all the victims already gone, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to investigate beyond confirming Dave's suspicions. What do you want me to do? I asked. Help me understand what's happening. And if there's another victim out there... He didn't finish the sentence, but I understood. The next morning, I sat in my motel room with the blinds drawn and an oversweetened coffee cooling beside me. I'd scribbled some notes, tried to form a theory, but it all came up hollow. Then Dave called. You wanted a fresh lead? He said. We just got one. Lady called in this morning. Said she's been getting the same kind of phone calls. Wouldn't tell me what they said. Maybe she'll talk to you. Texting you her address now. Her name's Veronica Langley. Silas, see if you can help her, please. Veronica's house was a modest 2-story colonial on the edge of town, surrounded by yellowing trees and the sound of nothing. She opened it cautiously after I'd knocked, keeping the chain latch engaged while she studied me through the gap. Are you from the police? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dave sent me, I said, keeping my tone gentle and non-threatening. My name is Silas Holloway. I'm not with the police. I just look into things like this. Unusual situations. Her fingers twitched at the edge of the door, a nervous gesture that spoke of sleepless nights and constant vigilance. You don't look like a cop. That's the idea. Sometimes people are more comfortable talking to someone who's not going to write up an official report. She studied me for another long moment, then slowly unlatched the chain and opened the door wider. I suppose you'd better come in. The place was clean but lived in, magazines fanned on the coffee table, a lavender candle flickering even though it was morning. She offered coffee but didn't drink any herself. We sat across from each other in a quiet living room that smelled like citrus and worry. It started a week ago, she said finally. Late at night, landline rings. I still have one. Stupid, I know. I'm old-fashioned. I thought it was a telemarketer at first, but the voice... It wasn't normal, wispy, like a whisper echoing through a long tunnel, not entirely human. And it knew things about me. Personal things. Things I've never told anyone. What kind of things? The battle playing out behind her eyes was almost visible. The need to unburden herself warring with decades of carefully maintained secrets. When she finally spoke, her voice was so quiet I had to lean forward to hear her. I'm a good person, Mr. Holloway. I am. I've lived a clean life, been active in my church, volunteered at the hospital for 15 years. But I did something a long time ago. Something terrible. I was young then. 23, fresh out of college, working my first real job. She paused, staring at her hands. I was at a Christmas party. Office party. I'd had too much to drink. Way too much. I should have called a cab, should have asked someone for a ride. But I was young and stupid and thought I was invincible. The roads were icy and it was snowing. Her voice broke. She looked away, focusing on something beyond the window. I hit someone. On Highway 12, just outside of town. I felt the impact, heard the sound. God, that sound. I stopped the car, got out to look. There was a man lying in the ditch. He wasn't moving. The words came faster now, as if a dam had finally burst. I panicked. I was drunk. I'd killed someone. My life was over. So, I got back in the car and drove home. I didn't call the police, didn't call an ambulance. I told myself maybe he was already dead, maybe it was just a deer, maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. But I knew. Deep down, I knew. I read about it in the newspaper the next day. Thomas Brennan, 42 years old, married with 3 children, killed in a hit-and-run accident on Highway 12. They never found who did it. I never came forward. I was too scared, too selfish. I built a life after that, got married, had children of my own, became the person I thought I should be, but I never forgot. And now the voice knows about it. She nodded miserably. Every detail. What I was wearing that night, what song was playing on the radio, what Thomas Brennan looked like lying in that ditch. Things no one else could possibly know. I felt a chill settle in my spine. This wasn't just a haunting. It was a reckoning. Are you still answering the calls? I'm afraid not to. I nodded. Unplug the phone. Get rid of it. Don't answer again. And if anything happens, call me. Not the police. She gave me a shaky smile. All right, I'll try. The next morning, my phone rang at 7:03 a.m. Silas? Her voice was lighter. It worked. I stayed up all night. No call. Not a peep. Relief flooded through me. That's excellent news, Miss Langley. She laughed. I guess the ghosts don't do mobile. I didn't have the heart to tell her they sometimes do. I left town that afternoon. Dave met me outside the motel. He looked tired but relieved. She gonna be all right? He asked. I think so, as long as the calls stop. He nodded. I owe you one. You owe me dinner next time I'm in town. He chuckled and offered a handshake. I took it. As I drove out of Grey Ridge, I thought about Charlie, Mrs. Kavanaugh, and the others. What had they been told? What secrets had been pulled from the locked drawers of their minds? And how long can guilt ferment in the dark before it turns poisonous? Maybe they weren't killed by a ghost. Maybe it was something far simpler. A whisper from the other side that said, "You don't deserve peace." And they believed it. I filed it all away under a folder marked Grey Ridge. One of the stranger cases, but not the loudest. Sometimes, horror isn't claws and shadows. Sometimes, it's just a phone call. If this sort of thing keeps you up at night, you might want to subscribe. There's always more buried in the archives. And if there's a story you're looking for, drop it in the comments. Odds are, I've already got a file with your name on it, just haven't dusted it off yet.